I've already beaten a hardcore Nuzlocke with Radical Red, but this ultra hard ROM hack has one more challenge for me: Hardcore Mode. Hardcore Mode takes the base game of Radical Red, which is already stupidly difficult, and ups the difficulty so much, the game basically becomes unfair. That's why in this video, I'm not trying to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke with Radical Red, I'm trying to survive it. With my long list of Nuzlocke rules, I have no idea how far I can make it into this challenge, but we're about to find out. Remember to like the video if you enjoy and subscribe for more ROM hacks in the future. Let's jump right in. So first up, we've got to pick our starter, and in Radical Red, you get to pick any starter between Gens 1 to 9. Now there's probably a couple of correct answers here, but Sprigatito did me so well on our winning attempt in this ROM hack, I decided to pick my cute cat Mario all over again. Then after delivering Oak's package, it's time to get our early game encounters. Now in a normal Nuzlocke, encounters can make or break a run, but in this, it's vital I get good encounters or I won't win, period. You can imagine my disappointment then when I end up with this bag of mediocrity. If nothing else, Butterfree Sleep Powder does let me get past Brendan in Viridian Forest, and then I'm able to find a Diglett in Diglett Cave, which is pretty decent, but I can't say I'm immediately confident about the start of this run. Especially because now I've got my first real challenge of this run, Falkner. Falkner was challenging before, but now he's got 2 extra Pokemon and an evolved Trumbeak with Skill Link that I really need to be careful around. I decide to start with Toad through an Intimidate drop before getting off a wing attack that unfortunately does less than half. At the very least though, Trumbeak is only able to hit back with a laughably weak Flame Charge. A Pluck on the following turn does slightly more, but still not a huge amount thanks to the Intimidate, which allows Toad to get off a second wing attack. One last wing attack takes down Falkner's bird, as Toad is brought to just below 50%. Good start. Second is Wattrel, who's going to be a pain. Thankfully, I did get one ground type in Daisy, so at least I have a counter. Okay, looks like we're dealing with Farfetch'd instead. Yoshi is a pretty good option here though, and thanks to Sleep Powder, this Punchy Duck isn't too much of an issue. Squawkabilly is too threatening to risk my Butterfly against though, so I switch back into Daisy on a quick attack. An Ice Shard from Daisy does a good amount, but my only ground type is then very nearly taken down by an Aerial Ace. Ouch, that hurt. At least I have Poochie, who can come in and take down the Parrot. Surprisingly, Falkner then sends in his Electric type out against my ground type. Strange choice, but it does mean I can guarantee there's a hidden power ground coming out here, so I switch into Toad through a 3 Intimidate. Don't question trying to intimidate a special attacker, I know exactly what I'm doing. I do realize my mistake and decide I should probably just hope for the best with Rock Blast, but as I switch back in, I get caught off guard with my first death of the run. Prime example of why I don't like the Radical Red AI, like there's no way I could have known the AI was going to go through a ground type attack on my flying type there, meaning I can't really play around it. Oh well, just part of this ROM hack I suppose. If nothing else, my 2 normal types can take their revenge by KOing the Zappy Seagull. All that leaves is Yanma, who despite having Mega Drain, can't stand up to Peach. Okay, well that fight went alright, only lost 1 Pokemon, and honestly I don't think it was my fault, so I'm happy with that. Out of the fire, into the drying pan though, because now we've got our first Kanto gym leader to deal with, and Brock's team has seen some serious buffs. With only 1 water, ground, and grass type, this could get nasty. So Brock starts with Hippopotas to set up a Sandstorm. I start with Mario. I decide to just go straight for the attack on my first turn, but Brock immediately switches into his Cactus. This Cactus is actually really scary thanks to Power Up Punch, but I do have Toad, who I'm hoping will be a good counter. So I switch on a Power Up Punch, meaning I get off an Intimidate, countering the attack up. Toad is threatened by Thunder Punch here, but I'm hoping the AI will get greedy and try to raise its attack. Okay, thank God. That could have ended badly. Second for Brock is Lunatone, and because this Moon is a single stage Pokemon, it has really high stats for this point in the game. I'm hoping Peach can deal with anything it throws at me though, so I switch in my Beaver on an Ancient Power. Of course, as I go through an Aqua Jet, Brock hard switches into Lileep. That means I've just given one of the hardest Pokemon in this gym battle a special attack boost. This Lileep is going to be a real pain, but I'm hoping with Struggle Bug, Yoshi might be able to stand up to it. I guess not. Well, at least Yoshi did some okay damage. Plan B then, hope Daisy can take this thing down. Problem is, Ice Shard isn't stab or that high base power, and Lileep is starting to stockpile, meaning this is all going a bit wrong. Plan C, send in my sheep and kick the plant to death. I'll be honest, had the leap started going through a cover, I would have just been screwed. Somehow though, we took that thing down. Up next, the moon is back, so I switch into Mario on an icy wind. I was kinda hoping Lunatone would go for literally any of its other attacking moves, but RNG said no. An Oran Berry keeps Mario just healthy enough to stay in the fight, and a Razor Leaf very nearly KOs. Unfortunately, it does miss the knockout, meaning Mario is brought to 10 HP. Just need to get off a single hit here though, and the moon will go down, so I send in Peach on a hard ancient power. An Aqua Jet is then enough for a knockout. Okay, getting through this, but my team is starting to take some knocks. Up next the Brock is Archon, which works really well because I should be able to knock this bird into Defeatist and then easily KO, or crit through a one-shot. Not complaining. Fifth for Brock is the Room, and I'm hoping Daisy can take down this engine fairly easily. I do have to get rid of the air balloon though, and of course get crit while doing it. At least Peach lived. It's then a simple case of switching through Toad into Daisy and then KOing with a magnitude 8. All that leaves is the Hippo that started this fight, and my team is basically at death's door. Luckily I still have Toad though, who is able to be switched in enough to neuter Brock's last Pokemon, and then I can KO with wing attacks. Okay, that fight was not easy or smooth by any means, but I'm fairly happy with only taking one casualty, 1 down, 8 to go. Now before we carry on with our adventure, I would like to do some more self-plugging. I know I've already asked you to like and subscribe, so I won't do that again. I would like to mention though that I've got very cheap channel memberships available if you really want to go out of your way to support the channel. Like I'm basically giving them away. And there is a benefit for you. This year I'm going to be focusing more on ROM hacks, and if you're a channel member, you get to participate in a vote onto which ROM hack I should nuzlocke next. So if you want to go out of your way to support me and have a say on what ROM hacks I play, become a member, please and thank you. Anyway, let's carry on. Now we get some more encounters, and I'm once again hoping for something half decent. I'd be forgiven then for being disappointed with a fox, a bird, and a small punchy child. Like Gyarados is always great, but that's a guaranteed encounter, so it doesn't count. Have to make do with what I've got then, which is going to make this next section a real challenge. That's because in Mount Moon, there's 2 fairly difficult mini-bosses. Super Nerd McGill challenges us to our first difficult double battle of this ROM hack, and I really don't have the encounters to prepare as well as I'd like. This means when McGill sends out his Thwackey and Voltorb, I have to respond with 2 Pokemon that are weak to electric attacks. Not a fun place to be. I have gotten off an Intimidate though, so I decide to double switch into Daisy and Mario to eat a Fake Out. This works really well, as the Fake Out damage is healed by grassy terrain, and the Voltorb's electric attack goes in to my ground type. Daisy then does have to take 2 hard attacks, and then annoyingly a U-turn plus Ice Shard doesn't do as much to the Thwackey as I was hoping. Now I've got Nugget in for 2 Intimidates at least, meaning I'm feeling safe enough to send Peach in on a hard Mega Drain before a bite brings the monkey really low. I'm then able to get off another perfect switch into Mario because I'm such a pro, and of course I still don't knock out the stupid monkey. I hate this thing. I then have what is possibly one of the luckiest turns I've ever had on this channel. Not only does my Gyarados survive a Volt Switch on literally 1 HP, I then get a double crit into McGill's side of the field. Not sure I appreciated that heart attack, but hey, it worked out. I've now put myself in a good position as I can switch Gyarados out for Mario as the bat starts setting up. A Dark Pulse still does good damage, and then finally the Voltorb goes kaboom. This would usually be a problem, but this was really good timing because it only KOs itself and the Swoobat. Talk about luck. All that leaves to McGill is Skidoo and Sableye. Now Sableye isn't really a threat as such, but it's going to be very annoying thanks to Will-O-Wisp. Luckily I can pretty quickly KO the stupid goat with Toadette, and that means even if it takes a while, I can slowly wear down the Sableye pretty safely. Did get very lucky in that fight, but a win's a win. We made it through that pretty difficult fight with no deaths, but what has me more worried is the beefed up Archer fight that I'm immediately thrown into afterwards. Let's hope we can push through this then, as Archer starts with Glimmet and I start with Daisy. This would normally be an easy first KO, but annoyingly a berry reduces my super effective damage. Or I'll get a one shot anyway. Second is Mightyena, so I switch into Mario as the pup sets up a Howl. Obviously that Howl combined with Strong Jaw could very quickly become a problem. I do have a good counter though, as I can U-turn for some really good damage into Nugget, who then thanks to an Intimidate takes the Ice Fang like it's nothing. I can then repeat this a couple more times to easily KO the Well, shit. That was always a risk with that strategy, I suppose. Rest in peace, Mario. I would like to now say Toad came in and got his revenge on the murder pup, but before I can land a wing attack, Archer switches in to Survivor. Annoying, but not the end of the world. Like Glimmet, the snake is holding a berry to reduce the damage of ground-type attacks, but I still decide Daisy is my best bet. I do even get lucky on the switch, as Survivor goes for a hypnosis that doesn't work thanks to the toxic spikes. What's not so lucky is that I then take a really powerful Mega Drain before hitting a magnitude that does next to nothing. Right, new plan, rely on Toad. Toad puts up a good fight, but thanks to being poisoned, he's not quite able to win the battle and goes down. Well, this fight is going well. I am able to finally pick up a second KO with Toadette, but I really need this fight to start going in my favour. Next to Archer is Thero, who only gets off a strong double hit before going down to 2 Dark Pulses. Okay, better. Fourth is Houndour, who is able to do good damage to Peach, but can't stand up to Aqua Jets. All that leaves is the low health Mightyena, who is finished off with one last attack. Okay, so that one hurt, and we lost some really valuable encounters. I would like to say we're at least done with Team Rocket for the minute, but we're really not. That's because once we're out of Mount Moon, we're quickly closing in on another very scary Team Rocket fight. What's worse, I only get one more encounter before that fight, and that's a Zangoose I named Blooper. I do at the very least get to evolve a few of my encounters. I then make a pretty silly mistake and run straight towards Nugget Bridge without even thinking about my rival who challenges us to a battle. This is a brain fart moment on my end. I was a bit too focused on actually getting past the bridge, so much so that I overlooked this fight. Let's hope I can still push through this then, as my rival starts with Hitmontop while I start with Nabbit. And Intimidate means that Nabbit is fairly safe to start going for tackles while only being hit by weak thieves. Eventually though, my rival switches out into Arbok. That's what I get through intimidating, I suppose. I do have a good counter for this snake though, my newly evolved boar, Daisy. Daisy is able to take a crunch really well before one-shotting with a magnitude 10. Ha, somebody really doesn't like snakes. Next to my rival is a strange choice as he sends out Charmeleon. Now I do get slightly worried here as this fire lizard starts going for dragon dances, but the AI gets greedy, meaning I'm able to pick up another easy KO. Can't complain about that luck. Up next is a much tougher nut to crack, Clefable. I decide to try and use Luigi here because clearly Clefable looks like the CEO of an American healthcare company. Luigi is tanky enough to take quite a few hits, but can't quite do enough damage with headbutts to take the KO. Not the end of the world though, because he's done enough to where Blooper can come in and finish off the pink blob. Next is Simisage, and I decide to stay in with Blooper here as he's at full health. Well, fuck me, that hurt. At least Slash did a lot. It's now time for Rosalina to shine as she's able to take down the grass monkey and my rival's spinning top. All that leaves is Eevee. Now this thing is scary because it's got a Z crystal. A Z move could potentially rip apart anyone on my team, so I'm very, very thankful that the AI decides to shit itself and just keep spamming double kick against my Gyarados. Sometimes you just get lucky like that, and that means we've gotten through this surprise rival battle. The remaining battles on Nugget Bridge also go pretty smoothly. It's the end of the bridge that scares me though. If you've seen my last videos on this ROM hack, you know how much this fight really messed me up last time, and well, now it's even harder, and I really don't feel like I have the encounters for it. Have to shoot my shot though, so here goes nothing. So the Team Rocket grunt starts with an Arcanine, while I start with Gyarados. Trading Intimidates works perfectly for me here, because I now know I'm baiting a Thunderfang and can safely switch into Daisy. 2 magnitudes later, and we've gotten our first KO. Next is Komala, and this thing hits like a truck. Now despite some very useful advice suggesting I just use a ghost type, I seem to have misplaced mine, so I'm gonna have to use Intimidate instead. Even after 2 Intimidates, this stupid thing still rips through my Gyarados. Jesus, that's just so much damage. I am eventually able to win, but it does cost me Rosalina. Stupid koala. Next is Druddigon, and with no Ice Fang, this could be a problem. I start trying to chip away with slashes, but immediately get forced into Luigi after taking a big hit. A headbutt from my sheep then fails to do much of anything, while Luigi gets poisoned. A second Dragon Tail then forces in Toadette, and I'll be honest, I'll take the 3 switch there, as Dark Pulses are finally able to take down the dragon. This grunts down to his last Pokemon, but there's no way I'm getting through this because the true horror of this battle now comes out. This little mouse. This thing is an absolute nightmare, and with my team so beat up, it proceeds to wipe all of my Pokemon. Well, We put up a good fight, but honestly, my encounters were fairly bad, so I'm not surprised we wiped there. Oh well, nothing we can do but move on to attempt 2. So let's try this again. We start as normal, collecting our early game encounters, and of course that means I'm collecting a whole bunch of different Pokemon than last time. This group isn't super impressive, but it has a bit more variety than last time, and we actually make it to Brock with no deaths. That's an improvement. While we get to Brock with one less casualty, the Brock fight goes about as well as it did last time. The real problem, once again, is Laleep, and thanks to an unlucky crit, we do lose our pup, Daisy. My Pokemon are all fairly beaten up by the end of the battle, but if nothing else, at least Daisy is the only casualty I take during this fight. We're off to Mount Moon again then, and I actually catch some decent encounters that shockingly I'm able to keep alive, even after an incredibly close battle with Archer. Somehow though, I do make it back to the Rocket Grunt. This time I'm a lot more confident, and that's because I have a fully evolved fire type to deal with the stupid mouse. Obviously the koala could still poke holes in my team, so gotta be careful here. I start with Nugget and try to land a powerful ground type attack into the grunt's Arcanine, but of course the AI switches, meaning I hit the koala. Well, at least I slowed that thing down. I then immediately switch into Captain Toad through an Intimidate, and my Gyarados still gets hit for over 50% of his HP. God, I hate this stupid thing. Thankfully, I picked up the perfect counter for this koala, my Stack of Salt. Not only does this rock type resist the koala's normal type attacks, he also has access to Recover and Salt Cure. This means I'm safe to spam Recovers after getting off one attack until the koala dies. Obviously risked a crit there, but at least that thing's gone. Enjoy hell, you little... Next to the grunt is Drudagon, who immediately starts being annoying by dragon tailing my team around. Once again though, I have a counter, and it's the only logical counter to a dragon, a fat squirrel. That's right, somehow Toad is the perfect counter here, as he's bulky enough to take hits and KO with covers. Colour me impressed. While this fight has been going well so far, it can't last forever, and Nugget is taken down by the Arcanine. Rest in peace, bud. He did his job though, as he's brought the Fire Pup low enough to where Yoshi can just barely survive long enough to take another knockout. All that leaves then is the Togedemaru. He is hoping we can push through this thing, and just hope my team's got enough HP to take... Oh, okay then. Well, that was anticlimactic, but at least we won. That means it's a quick walk to Bill's, where we pick up 2 new encounters. I catch a Yamper and a Tadbulb. Now these electric types couldn't have come at a better time, because now we've got to face the second gym leader of Radical Red, Hardcore mode, and yeah, either with 4 electric types and a grass type, this is gonna suck. I'm sure we've got this though, as Misty starts with Politoed to immediately set up the rain, while I start with Luigi. Surprisingly, the AI doesn't immediately switch here, meaning I'm able to land a Spark for good damage as the Throg poisons my bird. There's no way the AI doesn't switch here into a ground type though, right? Hey, I guessed correctly. This lets me get off a really strong Ice Fang on the following turn, as another of my Pokemon is poisoned. I'm not actually sure if the AI will switch again here on the following turn, so I decide to stay in and get off another attack that this time goes into Toxicroak. Toxicroak is a massive threat thanks to Swords Dance, so I'm hoping Luigi can do some good damage before going down. I mean, that worked, but it did cost me my bird. Rest in peace, Luigi. I hope you're in heaven f***ing up some rich arseholes. That was kind of what I was expecting, honestly, and it put me in a good position to KO with Bowser. Up next is another massive threat, Ludicolo. I really don't have any good answers for this thing, so I'm just going to have to hope my 2 grass types can take down this smug... Well, that went well. Only took 2 really valuable encounters to get this stupid thing down to 50%. All or nothing at this point, as Wario loses 50% of his HP to finally get the KO. Not through this yet, as this is looking like the end as Starmie comes in and brings me down to 2 Pokemon. What Misty hasn't counted on though is the power of Puppy. God, Voltund is a complete champ, somehow able to finish off all of Misty's remaining Pokemon. We've won our second gym badge, but after that bloodbath, I really would like some more Pokemon. Let's go catch some more warm bodies to the pile. We've actually got quite a ways to go before we get any more gym badges, and there's a lot of mini bosses between us and Surge. Before I get to that, at the very least, I am able to grab 2 more encounters, a Galarian Meowth, which should be really useful thanks to its steel typing, and a Togepi, which should also be really useful once I work out where I can get a shiny stone. Unfortunately, that's all yet before I run into the main roadblock that's stopping me getting into Vermilion, Camper Jeff. Camper Jeff normally wouldn't be a huge problem if I had access to more Pokemon to counter his 6 in this double battle, but as it stands, I kinda have to make do with what I have. This starts off well, as I'm able to get 2 Flame Bursts into the Mr. Mime while only taking minimal damage. Ambipom does get off an Arm Thrust, but my Squirrel is pretty tanky. A Body Slam then paralyzes the monkey. Next, Boltund comes out, and Toad does have to take a hard Thunder Fang, but the Ambipom gets paralyzed, allowing my team to double up into the pup, giving me another KO. Third is Pre-Erika, who would be a massive problem if not for my Fire type. Before I can land the Flame Burst though, Toadette is flinched by a Fake Out. Surprisingly, this still works out, as it allows my Squirrel to finish off the Ambipom. Last of this camper is Granbull, and despite an Intimidate, we're getting through this fight fairly well. Of course I say that, and immediately regret opening my mouth, because as I switch into Donkey Kong, Toadette lands a Flame Burst that misses the KO on the stupid cat by what looks like 1 HP, which costs Donkey Kong his life. That loss isn't a huge problem, because Beautifly was falling off hard at this point anyway, but it's a casualty I would have rather have not taken. What is a huge deal is that my Lion then gets hit and killed by a Brick Break. This fight was going so well. If nothing else, Captain Toad is able to finish off this stupid metal cat, and Bowser is able to take down the Granbull, but Jesus, I really don't have the numbers to be losing more Pokemon. At least I can now replace my fallen comrades now that I'm in Vermilion. With the most notable Pokemon, I find a Titan bird I hatched from an egg, and then I find a Diglett in, well, Diglett Cave. Big shock, I know. I don't get any other noticeable encounters, meaning it's time to head onto the SS Anne. Now there's a couple more hard mini-bosses I have to face here, but none of them prove to be much of the problem before I get to Brendan. Brendan at this point has a team of 6 fully evolved Gen 3 powerhouses, and I really don't have enough options to feel confident going into this fight. Let's see if my new and old team members can carry me through this then, as Brendan starts with his Crawdaunt, who hits like a truck, while I start with Captain Toad through an Intimidate. I start the fight with a Dragon Rage, as it's the only attack Captain Toad has that isn't resisted by this crab, while my Gyarados takes a stupidly hard knockoff. That was even after an Intimidate, ouch. Surprisingly though, before I can get off the second attack, Brendan hard switches into what should be one of his scariest Pokemon, Slaking. Now Slaking is 3 if you have a way to take advantage of Truant, which stops this monkey attacking every other turn. Luckily I have the perfect counter here then, as I have Peach, who knows the move Obstruct. Obstruct works the same as Protect, but with the added benefit of lowering the ape's defense every time I block an attack. This means I can simply stall on the monkey's non-truant turns and then KO with Night Slashes. Easy. Next to Brendan is another scary threat, Sceptile. The main problem I have with this grass starter is that it knows Drain Punch, which half my team is weak to. I decide to take a pretty big risk and send in my low HP Gyarados to get off an Intimidate. Right, just survive that. Now I have to take another risk and send in Bowser on a Rock Slide. Okay, that didn't do as much as I expected, but still have to take another hit here before I can KO. We pray for no crits, and my pup survives, landing a 4 times effective Ice Attack for the knockout. We're taking some nasty hits here, but we're getting through this. Next is Plusle, who might seem less intimidating than Brendan's other Pokemon so far, but the small Pikachu clone can hit surprisingly hard. I actually decide to make a sacrifice here, because as good a boy as Bowser has been, I really need a clean switch. That means it's time to say goodbye to Bowser. You really are the only reason we've gotten this far. With that sacrifice, I'm able to get Toad in for 3, and with Toad out healthy, he's very nearly able to get a clean KO on this rodent. Before Toad can land the final blow though, the Plusle Volt switches into a much bigger problem, Hariyama. Remember when I said most of my team was weak to fighting types? Yeah, this is gonna hurt. Luckily on the switch, Toad lands another Body Slam that does good damage and more importantly, paralyzes. That might make all the difference. I decide Bomb is my best counter here, so I switch my bird in on a Fake Out. I then go through a Pluck that doesn't quite KO, meaning I'm in trouble here unless the AI goes to knockoff. Thank God. That lets me take down another of Brendan's massive threats. Speaking of massive threats, next is Gardevoir. I do have King Boo here as a counter, but I still need to watch out for Mystical Fire Jesus Christ, that was nearly very bad. I suppose it worked out though, so I can't complain. Nearly through this, but I am going to have to make another sacrifice, as my team is too low to safely switch. Rest in peace, King Boo. You came in clutch, surviving that fire attack. With that, Peach is just barely able to take down Brendan's last 2 Pokemon. Right, we're still in this, but this Nuzlocke is death spiraling hard. As a reward for defeating him, Brendan does give me a shiny stone at the very least, which does give me access to Togekiss. I can then do this old man a favor, which means he rewards me with the HM for Cut. The Cut HM gives me access to more encounters. I could really do with some good ones at this point if I don't want this run to end. Okay, a male Salandit isn't really what I was looking for. Once I make it to Route 8 though, I am able to find a Morgrem, which is really useful for Surge's ace. I'm determined to push on for more encounters at this point, and well, I tried to brute force my way through another mini-boss, and this is really something I should have planned for a bit better. This fight is no joke. Armarouge and Tasserina are a really scary pair. I decide to try and set up screens to keep my team alive, and immediately almost lose Spinny. At least Shy Guy took that hit slightly better. I know there's another grass attack coming into Spinny here, so I switch into Togekiss, who takes the hit really well. I then lower the Armarouge's massive attack potential by hitting it with a Spirit Break. I can then switch into Captain Toad, while Blooper gets off a yawn. If you couldn't tell, I'm really trying hard to take this slow to neuter these threats rather than going in super aggressive. Of course, can't play passive forever, so I try and hit the Armarouge with an Aqua Tail, and this works really well as this attack goes into the Arcanine, very nearly one-shotting. An Air Slash then does good damage into the enemy grass type as it falls asleep. Next turn, I switch into Goomba, correctly predicting the rock attack into Gyarados. As the AI switches, it's a sleep grass type through its Ghost Fish. Arcanine then goes down to an Air Slash. That worked pretty well. Of course, we're not out of the danger zone yet though, as I now have to deal with the Armarouge again. Pretty sure my Dugtrio outspeeds everything here, so I'm able to dig to keep my Pokemon safe while landing another yawn into the fish. Armarouge then lands a Flamethrower, bringing my Togekiss lower than I'd like. Next, I follow me, which works perfectly as the Basculegion just misses a Hydro Pump, and Goomba takes down the scary Fire type. I'd now be in a great place to Sucker Punch if the Tazarina wasn't out. That thing is really annoying. I'm pretty sure I'm still baiting a Hydro Pump though, so I switch into my Resident Tank Toad to take the hit as I get a yawn off into the Basculegion. This fight has been going pretty well for me so far, so of course that luck runs out this turn as the grass type wakes up, meaning my Squirrel has to take both attacks and finally goes down. Rest in peace, you chubby. Awkwardly, I also misclicked, meaning the Air Slash that should have gone into the grass type only does minimal damage into the Legion fish before it falls asleep. I decide to switch out into Captain Toad here to try and bait a water and grass move. Unfortunately, this works a little too well as my Gyarados finally goes down. Well, I am able to pick up another KO, but this fight is falling apart fast. I'd love to say we pulled through this with no more deaths, but Blooper does thaw before we're able to close out this fight. This run is going very well. Now I only have one more chance to get a decent Pokemon before this next gym fight, and I'm praying through a Mudkip here. I have an equal chance to get any water starter, so we pray. Okay, well that's not a Mudkip. Funnily enough though, my very flamboyant duck might prove to be very useful. That's because despite my numerous deaths, this train hasn't derailed quite yet, and that means it's time for Surge. Now both Brock and Misty have had upgraded teams compared to normal Radical Red, but Surge's team is looking insanely scary. I'm sure this will go fine. So Surge starts with his Fridge Freezer, while I start with Monty. I'm actually able to get a very simple KO here with Brick Break and Aqua Jet. Don't ask me why the AI didn't switch. Let's not question it. Second is Pawmot, so I switch into Luma on a Plasma Fist. My Camel then does have to take a really hard close combat, but the defense drop is perfect because it lets me take another KO. This is going well so far. I'm sure the rest of this fight will go as smoothly. Third is Hitmonlee, who immediately gets a defense boost thanks to the electric terrain. This is going to be a fight where I need clean switches, and I'm kind of just playing to beat what's in front of me, not trying to conserve my Pokemon for future battles. That means as quickly as Luma has made his debut battle, he's already dipping. Bye bye Camel. That worked out nicely though, as Monty can now take another scary close combat before one-shotting with an Acrobatics. Fourth for Surge is his super scary Raichu. I decided that this thing is such a threat, my best bet is getting what damage off I I can with Morty, and then trying to KO. An Aqua Jet hits really hard before my duck gets cooked. This lets Buzzy Beetle come in for 3, meaning a bite. Oh, okay. Well, that's actually where Shy Guy comes in, because he's the perfect counter for Surge's Mega Ace, and I'll be completely honest, not sure how I would have gotten rid of that thing had I not gotten Shy Guy. 2 more left to go then, as Surge sends out his Voltorb. Now, I'm pretty sure this thing is going to explode, and I really don't want to risk anyone other than Buzzy, so I make the switch and lose another Pokemon. Hey, at least we're pretty much through this fight, as Shy Guy is able to end this battle with a Dark Pulse. That was a bloody, brutal, quick battle. Somehow though, we've won our 3rd gym badge of the run, but I can't help but feel this run is coming to its last legs with my impressive 17 deaths. I didn't hear no bell though, so let's carry on. Good news, our level cap is now 44, meaning I can evolve some long overdue Pokemon. Bad news, I don't get any more encounters. Radical Red has now started putting difficult mini-bosses inside of gyms, meaning before we even get to face Erika, we have to get past Ace Trainer Mary, and she's using a strategy that gives me PTSD from Sword and Shield VGC. If you don't know how this strategy works, basically Weavile is going to hit the entire field with Surf, which activates the scary rock type's weakness policy, and when you combine this attack boost with its speed boost from its ability, this thing, if you let it set up, will walk over a lot of teams. Thankfully I have Fake Out, which at least stops this rock monster getting a speed boost from Weavile. A lucky rock slide crit then nets me a KO. Good start. Then Copperage comes out, meaning I've still got 2 fairly scary Pokemon staring me down here. Last turn, Colossal went for Heat Wave, so I'm kind of just hoping it goes for that again, as I'm pretty sure I can take down the elephant before it attacks. Well, my plan kind of worked, but I actually don't do as much to the Copperage as I'd like, meaning I lose Captain Toad. That's a good Pokemon to lose, but let's be honest, he was never going to be a massive help in the next gym. I can now get Goomba in for 3, which puts me in a good position to switch into my Bombird, and then KO both the Elephant and the Colossal with the Bulldoze. Gotta love a double KO. All that leaves is Maractus, who goes down to a dual Wing Beat, and Ironhead. Right, we lost another Pokemon, but at the very least, we've made it to the next gym leader. Now, this run is currently on life support, and I'll be straight with you guys, I'm not expecting to make it through this next fight. We're going down in a blaze of glory though. Let's win that 4th gym badge. So Erika starts with a very intimidating Ogerpon, while I start with Thwomp. Now I'm hoping I can at least take 1 hit here maybe to get some... Oh, okay then. Maybe Yoshi can do slightly better. So yeah, this stupid thing proceeds to outspeed and one-shot my entire team. And with that, Radical Red Hardcore Mode has beaten us. Honestly though, I'm impressed with how far we got, considering this run has been on death's door since the 2nd gym. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're excited to see what ROM hack I play next, remember to become a member so you can vote on which game I play. Thanks so much for watching guys, I'll see you all next time.